Hey, everybody, welcome to another deep dive. And this one's going to be a little different. We're not looking at a book or a movie this time. We are going deep into the lyrics of a song. It's a Canibus track called Channel Zero.
Oh, yeah, I know this one. This is a good one.
Yeah, it's dense. Like, even just trying to unpack all the ideas in here for this deep dive, it's like he's not just writing rhymes. He's trying to fit like a whole philosophy into 3 verses.
Oh, absolutely. Canibus is known for that. Like
Yeah.
a lot of rappers, they're about the flow, the beats, the vibe. But Canibus, he's got this whole other layer going on. Like he's dropping knowledge bombs in between the bars.
Yeah, and this song in Channel Zero, it's like a crash course in conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
If you're into that kind of stuff, government, cover-ups, aliens, hidden history, this is the song for you.
Yeah.
And speaking of Canibus,
Yeah.
if you're digging his style, you got to check out C Radio on Spotify and the Rippers Unite channel on YouTube. They've got a ton of his stuff and interviews and all that. But okay, back to Channel Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Right from the first verse, he throws you into this world where there's this like shadowy group. They're suppressing evidence of alien life. He even ties it to that whole MJ-12 conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and it's not just like a vague, they're hiding aliens kind of thing. He gets specific. Like he name drops 1947,
Yeah.
which is, of course, the year of the Roswell incident. And then he talks about this idea of like selling souls, like people in power trading their, their morality or whatever for access to advanced technology weapons.
Yeah.
And he even brings up mind control. It's like he's building this whole world through these little details. It's really clever.
Yeah, it's like a thriller unfolding in your ears. And even the words he chooses add to that mood.
Yeah.
Grand deception, skeptic, death wish. It's intense.
Oh, for sure. And then he goes even further. He claims that like 97% of U.S. presidents have been Freemasons and that they're all involved in this like money laundering and secret underground bases thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is. And whether you buy into it or not, it's tapping into this like deep distrust of authority that you see in a lot of these conspiracy theories.
Right, like there's this idea that the people in power, they're not who they say they are. They're hiding something. And then we get to the chorus, tune in to Channel Zero. What do you think he means by that?
Ew, that's a good question. I mean, on one level, it could be literal, right? Like some kind of secret frequency or broadcast. But I think it's more metaphorical than that. Like Channel Zero represents this whole other way of seeing things, this alternative perspective that's outside the mainstream.
So it's not just about aliens or government conspiracies. It's about questioning everything. Like looking for the truth that's hidden beneath the surface.
Exactly. It's like a call to action, to be more critical, to do your own research, and not just accept what you're told.
It's like he's saying, don't be a sheep, be a wolf.
Yeah, I like that.
And it makes you think about your own information sources, right? Like, where do you get your news? How do you form your opinions about the world? What are your Channel Zeros, so to speak?
That's a great question. It's something we all need to be asking ourselves these days, especially with all the misinformation out there.
Right, because everyone's got an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's trying to sell you something. So how do you filter through all that noise and find what's actually true?
Yeah, it's tough. But I think that's part of what Canibus is trying to get at in this song. He's not giving us the answers, but he's prompting us to ask the right questions.
And then just when you think you're starting to get a handle on this whole conspiracy thing,
Mm-hmm.
he switches gears completely in the second verse.
Oh, yeah. He goes deep.
He brings in Genesis 1.26. That line about, let us make man in our image after our likeness.
Right, and it's interesting how he focuses on that word us, because it suggests that God or the creators might not be a singular entity, but rather a group or a collective. And he connects that to the Elohim, which in Hebrew can refer to a plural form of God.
Okay, so we've gone from shadowy groups on Earth to the possibility of multiple creators, all in the span of like a few lines.
And that's classic Canibus. He's always weaving in these theological and philosophical ideas. It's what makes his music so thought-provoking.
And then it gets even wilder because he starts describing these advanced extraterrestrial beings.
Oh, yeah, with the high-pitched sounds and the clicks and beeps and the fins transformed into limbs.
Like something out of a science fiction movie.
Right, and that's another layer to his writing. He blends these science fiction tropes with ancient astronaut theories. Like he throws in gravity manipulation, energy grids. He even mentions decapyramids and tetrahedrons on the moon.
Wait, decapyramids and tetrahedrons on the moon?
Yeah, it's out there. But that's what makes it so interesting. He's building this whole mythology around this idea of a long hidden history of extraterrestrial involvement in human affairs.
And he does it with such vivid imagery.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I can picture these beings walking on the moon in those liquid-filled shoes,
Hmm.
leaving no footprints.
Yeah, it's like he's painting a picture with his words.
And then he drops that reference to 23 billion years, which is way before life on Earth supposedly began.
Right, it's like he's suggesting that there's this whole other timeline, this whole other history that we're not aware of.
It's mind-blowing.
But what I find really fascinating is how he connects it back to the listener. He says, stimulate your left brain's hemisphere. He's not just telling a story, he's actively encouraging critical thinking.
He's saying, don't just take my word for it, question everything.
Exactly, and that includes questioning the grand deception he mentioned earlier.
He's really challenging us to think for ourselves.
He is, and that's a powerful message, especially coming from a rapper.
Yeah, it's not what you typically expect from a hip-hop song.
Right, it's so much more than just entertainment.
Exactly. There's real depth and substance to his lyrics.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
And it's not easy listening either. Like, you can't just have this on in the background. You got to sit down and really pay attention to catch all the nuances.
It's true. It's not for the casual listener. It's for someone who wants to be challenged, who's willing to put in the mental effort to unpack it all.
And that's part of what makes it so rewarding. Like, you feel like you're really discovering something. It's not just being spoon-fed information.
Right. It's like he's giving you the pieces of the puzzle, and it's up to you to put them together.
Speaking of puzzles, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that whole Channel Zero metaphor. Like, what do you think he's really getting at with that?
That's a good question. I think it goes beyond just the conspiracy stuff, like we were talking about. I think Channel Zero represents this idea of accessing hidden knowledge, of seeing the world from a different perspective, one that's outside the mainstream.
So it's not necessarily about literal alien broadcasts or secret government channels. It's more about being open to alternative sources of information, to questioning the official narrative.
Exactly. It's about being willing to consider ideas that might seem strange or unconventional at first, but could actually hold a lot of truth.
It's like he's saying, don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to challenge your own beliefs, even if it makes you uncomfortable.
Which is so important these days. I mean, we're bombarded with information from all sides. How do we know what to believe?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. And I think Canibus, in his own way, is offering us a framework for navigating that.
Like a set of tools for critical thinking.
Exactly. He's not giving us the answers, but he's prompting us to ask the right questions.
He's saying, don't just accept what you're told. Be skeptical. Do your own research.
And be willing to change your mind if the evidence leads you in a different direction.
That's a powerful message, especially coming from a rapper.
I know it's not what you typically expect from a hip-hop song.
But that's what makes Canibus so unique. He's not just entertaining us. He's making us think. He's pushing us to be more engaged with the world around us.
And that's something to be celebrated.
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about the content of the song, the ideas and conspiracies he explores, but I want to circle back to the writer's craft for a moment. Like, what are some specific techniques or word choices that stand out to you in Channel Zero?
Oh man, there are so many. But one thing that really strikes me is his use of vivid imagery. Like, he's not just talking about abstract concepts, he's painting pictures with his words.
Right, we talked about those liquid-filled shoes earlier.
Yeah, and there are other examples throughout the song. Like, he talks about the high-pitched sounds and the clicks and beeps that these extraterrestrial beings use to communicate.
It's like he's trying to make you hear those sounds in your head.
Exactly. He's creating a sensory experience, not just an intellectual one.
And it's so effective. Like, you really feel like you're being transported to another world.
And another thing that's impressive is his ability to blend different styles of language. Like, he'll go from using very scientific terms to street slang, all in the same verse.
It's like he's fluent in multiple dialects.
Yeah, and it creates this really interesting juxtaposition. It shows his mastery of language.
And then there are his rhyme schemes, which are incredibly complex and layered.
Oh, yeah. He's a master of rhyme. He's not just rhyming for the sake of it. He's using rhyme to create a sense of rhythm and momentum that pulls you through the song.
It's like a verbal puzzle.
And the more you listen, the more you discover.
It's a song that rewards repeated listens.
Oh, for sure.
This deep dive has definitely made me want to go back and re-listen to Channel Zero with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, me too. I'm sure I'll catch things I missed the first time around.
There's always more to uncover.
It's a song that just keeps giving the more you listen to it.
And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's like, we're not just listening to music, we're really getting inside the artist's head.
Yeah.
Seeing the world through their eyes.
It's true. Like in this case with Canibus, we're seeing how he connects all these different ideas, conspiracy theories, science fiction, ancient history. He even throws in some biblical references.
It's a lot to take in,
It is.
but it's also incredibly stimulating. Like, you can't help but think differently after listening to a song like Channel Zero.
It challenges your assumptions.
Yeah.
Makes you question everything.
And for someone who's new to cannabis, this might seem like a lot to process. But I think that's part of the appeal. There's always more to discover, more layers to peel back.
Yeah, it's not a one and done kind of thing. You can listen to this song 100 times and still find new meaning in it.
And that's what makes it so rewarding. It's like a journey, not just a destination.
And that journey is what Channel Zero is all about. It's about being open to new information, even if it challenges our preconceived notions.
It's about expanding our horizons and exploring the unknown. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Channel Zero, I want to leave you with a final thought. Cannabis encourages us to tune in to Channel Zero, to seek out those alternative perspectives. But what are your Channel Zeros? Where do you go to challenge your own thinking, to expand your understanding of the world?
Those are the questions we should all be asking ourselves.
Keep those channels open. Keep questioning. Keep exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep digging.